Okay, there we go. And we are live. Welcome to DoubleBookedCo. This is our January live discussion. We are discussing The Death of Mrs. Westaway by Ruth Ware. It's our first book of 2025 that we'll be discussing, and our fourth year of reading for our book club, which is crazy because I feel like we just started this, but we have officially done 3 years of books. So how many books is that? Because we read 11 months out of the year?
Yeah, so 33.
So 33 books.
Yeah, this is 34.
34. Wow.
Yeah.
I couldn't even tell you half of the books. Like,
I don't think I could either.
I don't think I could list them.
I think I could list some of the books that were not picked that were options. I might have better luck with that than with what actually won, sadly.
Yeah. But I think overall, I mean, we should maybe go back and look what we read and like do a chart or something to see like how we rated them and if we've picked good books overall or if we've not had such good ones picked.
No.
But yeah. But speaking of book picks, before we get into our live discussion, let's remind everybody what we're reading for February. If you want to go ahead and remind us of that.
Yeah, so February, this is Allie's month. It's her birthday month next month. So she had 3 choices. She picked the author Penelope Fitzgerald. And of the 3 titles of hers we had, the one that won was The Beginning of Spring. So this is set in March of 1913 in Moscow. And it's about 250 pages. And yeah, it should be good. I'm looking forward to it.
If you're a Hoopla reader through your library, I did find an ebook copy of that. And I believe the image that it shows is the same one that you have on your book there. So that's what we'll be reading for February. And the reading sprints will be next week, Tuesday, which is February 4th, I believe. Yes, February 4th. Yeah. So we'll do reading sprints. You can read whatever you'd like. Most of us start the book. I'll be starting the book that evening. So if you would like to join us, please feel free. We have Andy in the house. Hello, hello.
Hi, Andy.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. You have been here since the beginning, so that's been super fun. Most of the people that started with us have stayed, so we must be doing something right.
I think so, yeah. Thanks you, Andy. Thanks.
So yeah, so we'll be reading that in February. And it'll be nice. It's a shorter month, which, I mean, it's shorter by, 2 days, 3 days. But it's nice to have a shorter book.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, so again, we are going to be discussing The Death of Mrs. Westaway, which is a Ruth Ware book. We had previously read a Ruth Ware book. I don't think last year, but the year before that, we read In a Dark, Dark Wood, and we thought we would revisit an author. Ruth Ware was picked, and then Death of Mrs. Westaway. So as we start all of our, discussions, if you were to rate the book 1 out of 5, 5 being amazing, on a Goodreads scale, what would you rate this book?
Well, I didn't finish. Now that you can hear and tell, but I have been sick and I can't stay awake to save my life a lot of the time. So I could have, but other times I just couldn't make myself do it. So I have not finished. However, based on what I've read so far, I'm going to give this like a 3.5. Like it feels like a decent modern Gothic retelling of essentially Rebecca and like lots of other Gothic things. But I'm enjoying it. I like that's a little bit different. And so far, at least, it's not as creepy as The Dark, Dark Wood was. That really scared me. And one of my big things to be afraid of, this is very off topic, is just like open windows at night, like where people can just look in and it's just open glass with nothing. So like having that huge house with all those doors and everything with no coverings, that just freaked me out. Anyway, yeah, so I am really enjoying it. I will finish this once I can keep my brain on again and, stay conscious. But I I'm fine with getting spoiled, and I talked to Dani ahead of time about a couple of things, and I am correct in a couple of estimations of like who did it and who her parents are and things. But I'm sure there are other mysteries and clues and things that are ahead that I don't know about. So I look forward to getting spoiled tonight. I will forget when I actually get to read the book. Don't worry, everybody. So anyways, yes, I am enjoying this, and it's like a 3.5 so far for me. What do you think?
Well, so I read this book back in early December. So it's been a long while since I read it, and I listened to it on audio. I look back at my Goodreads, and I have 4 stars on there, but I'm thinking it was more like a 3.5 for me. Yeah. I do remember I did like it more than In a Dark, Dark Wood. And I don't remember what I rated In a Dark, Dark Wood, but I feel like I liked the story more, and I do remember, like, when I was finished reading it, I was like, oh, I liked that more than In a Dark, Dark Wood. But a lot of the times, like, when you can't remember anything about a book either, like, I'll remember enough as we start talking, but it's forgettable. Like, I'm like, oh, I don't really remember all that much. Like, I remember the main things, but overall, I think 3.5 is probably what I went with. It looks like Andy had a 3.25, which is about where we were as well. So yeah. As far as your overall thoughts, obviously with not finishing, are you DNFing it, or are you going to finish it fully?
I will finish. Okay. Yeah, I will finish. I just, like today especially, I could not stay awake. It's me. It's obviously it's not the book. So I will go back and finish. I did want to finish in time. It just didn't happen. So yeah, I will go back.
So what are your overall thoughts on what you've read so far?
I'm liking it. I think Hal's a little dumb and a little naive. And I mean, we all are, especially when we're that young. And I can imagine only having one parent and then having that parent die, and you are like, she's what, like 20 or 21 or something. She's really young. And to be left really to your own devices, totally on your own in the world, and then have no money and like an insecure living space, and these jerky guys money when you take out that loan, and business is slow because it's the wrong time of year and everything, like all that stuff. I felt badly for her. That's an awful situation to be in, and I could really empathize with how she felt and how screwed she felt. And I hope I would have been brave enough in her shoes to also have just gone, screw it, I'm taking the last of my money that I scraped together, and to go out to Cornwall and just do my best to try, because she has nothing to lose. Literally, she's going to lose her house. She can't avoid the creepy guys. She can't really work, So I'm enjoying her to a certain extent, even though she is starting to irritate me. And I really like the setting too. I mean, I like Cornwall in general. I mean, anything British I enjoy, but like the idea of this big, huge house away from everything in Cornwall, like on this craggy coastline, and having the Mrs. Danvers housekeeper character, and unheated and dark, and all the creepy things for all the house stuff. I love all that stuff. I love that vibe and everything. So I'm really enjoying it. The part that I stopped reading at shortly after where I stopped in the live show when we were doing reading sprints. So she has gone there and went to the funeral and is back at the house, and they read the will, and she's the sole inheritor of everything essentially. So that's where I ended the reading sprints, and I only got a little bit further. So she's like passed out and woken up again, and they're waiting for one of the brothers to come, the one who's a doctor, who I think is the twin or something, the oldest, I don't know, but they're waiting for him to get there. He should be there any minute. And she's on her own for the first time, and she's starting to panic a little bit, like, oh my God, what do I do? This can't be right. I can't be this person, even though I think it's pretty clear that she is this person, but so that's where I am. And I am liking it, it feels a little wordy, much like my blabbing right now. It feels a little wordy for what it is. That's 115 pages of this book. So I have not finished, obviously, but it feels like this could have been a little bit shorter, like 50, 60 pages shorter overall. It would have been a little tighter. and maybe it'll be a little creepier that way if it was shorter. But yeah, it seemed to take a long time to get just the basics established before she could get out of town. So I hope that that changes. I don't think it will, but yeah. So those are my rambly, incoherent thoughts. Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, for me, so very Miss Danvers. Like, I immediately, when this lady popped on the screen, I was like, this is Rebecca. This is so creepy. Like, she is like doing all the same things. And like in my head, because I was listening to the audiobook, every time she was mentioned, all I kept hearing was Danvers. So even when you said it, I was like, isn't her name Danvers? Like, I'm pretty sure it's Danvers. And I looked it up. It's Warren. It's Mrs. Warren.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But she was such a witch. Like, I was like, oh my God, this is Mrs. Danvers.
Mm-hmm.
So and when it all comes out to in fruition, I felt bad for what happened to her, because realistically, she was trying to do her best, and she was trying to warn Hal almost every single scene she was in.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So overall, there were a lot of things that I feel were unnecessary in the book. Like, for me, the whole tarot card thing was completely irrelevant. I don't feel like it had anything to do with anything when it came down to the like brass tacks of it all. Like, so yes, it had a correlation between her and her mother, but then, and we're spoilers.
Sure.
But then that her mother wasn't actually her biological mother, it was actually technically her aunt, and that person wasn't even the one that was originally into tarot cards. She took on the persona of the actual mother, who was Maggie, who was the one that was into tarot cards. So I understand that it was trying to like make a connection between the mother and daughter, and then I just felt like it was unnecessary. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel like it came into play at all once she was at the manor. And I get
I've already forgotten about the tarot cards, by the way. Like, I didn't realize they were still a thing. Just from my perspective. Like,
and she does a reading or two in at the manor, which kind of freaks Abel out, I think. And it's kind of sets up a level of suspense, like, oh my gosh, is this is she really for real? But to me, I feel like it's that 50 pages that could have been cut. Like, it doesn't really have anything to do with anything. It didn't, I thought what it was going to do is she was going to like reveal who the killer was through the tarot, and it was going to be like, oh my gosh, like, it's for real. And that's not at all what it did. It basically just ferreted out the red herrings, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What I did like about this is that this book felt very much Agatha Christie. Mm-hmm. So you have this manor where all these people are situated, and the killer is amongst them. So it's someone in this room,
right?
And what's better in an Agatha Christie? Everyone that's on scene who's been mentioned, it's one of them is the killer. Mm-hmm. And I love how in most Agatha Christie's, how you figure out who the killer is. It's like the first one mentioned, or it's the one that you least suspect, which is always the first one that you're supposed to suspect. Right. And then it gets you confused, and so for, again, spoilers, when it's revealed that Ezra is who he is and he is the killer, I was like, I knew it. I knew it was going to be him, because he was all nice and like, oh, let her stay. And like, I was like, this guy, I bet it's him, because it's too obvious. It's like, oh, it can't be him, because he wants her to stay and all these other things. When it came to it, I was like, and you're still in the back of your head, you're like, well, maybe it's not him. And I thought it was Abel's husband, because they're really leading you down that path. And I was like, it can't be him, because she's playing too strongly down that path. So it can't be him. It's got to be someone else. But there's a moment where everyone's leaving. Everyone's going their own ways. They'll figure out everything later. It's kind of all been given up on. And she misses a train because of the weather. And Ezra had taken her to the train station, and he had driven away, and she finds out that she misses her train, and then all of a sudden he's like back, and he's like, oh, the weather, I'll just drive you wherever. As soon as that happened, I was like, it's him, because now he has his opportunity. Everyone's gone. They think she's gone, and now he's gonna do it. He's gonna take her back to the manor. He's gonna freaking kill her, just like Rebecca. Like, I'm just like, oh my gosh. So I mean, I liked that part of reading this book, is like figuring it out, but also like just going with the flow of it. It was very fun. I felt like it was a fun read.
Yeah.
But like I said, there were some instances where I was like, I don't like the whole tarot card thing. I could have done without. Hal was very annoying to me. I felt like all she did was complain, like internally. All of her internal monologue was very like whiny, and that never changed.
Oh God.
Yeah, and yeah. So, but I liked the flashbacks. I liked trying to decipher. I totally called the fact that her mother wasn't her. Because I was like, where's Maud? Why?
Right.
Like, keep talking about how they left. Because Maud, where is Maud? If she's not here at the manor, but she left the same time as everyone else left, as the Maggie left, I'm like, no, they must have left together and something happened. And then this one dies in a car. Like, I'm like, none of this pans out. So I had a feeling that Maud was Maggie. And when they kept mentioning the boathouse and something else, and the fact that the
boathouse?
Yeah,
oh my God. I mean, this is very Rebecca. Holy crap, sorry. Yeah.
So yes.
Wow.
So I figured a lot out before it was revealed. But I didn't feel like it was easy to get there. Like, I tried to ferret out all of the clues, and it was fun doing it in this one because there were so many people to play, and everyone except for the kids, of course, everyone was there in the 90s who was there now. So it was like, who done it? And I didn't and as it's revealed, and I'm kind of like giving you all these spoilers, but
that's fine.
The reason why she was left everything, that was one thing that irked me, because I'm like, really? You're gonna wait until your dying breath to be like, now I'm gonna out my son because he should pay for his
That's why?
Like, yes, she left all the money basically to Hal so that everything else would fall into place, so that Maggie would be found essentially, and that Ezra would be outed, and that it was all like, but why couldn't she do that while she was living?
Right.
It was annoying. Okay, so read it, because there's a lot of there's a lot of things. So sorry for all of that spoilery stuff, but anywho. And I pretty much answered all of the questions that I even have here. So I don't know why I get too involved. But anyways, who did you suspect the most throughout the novel? And what clues led you in that direction? I'll start, since I already basically said everything already. Like I said before, I thought it was Abel's husband for the longest time, because they kept giving you clues to suggest that it was him. And I can't remember what his name was, but he was the doctor. He was the one that was the doctor.
Okay.
And then I was like, well, no, he couldn't have been there. Like, has he been in the picture for that long? And then I thought it was Abel, and that he was bisexual or something, and was with her back in the 90s because he was so nice to Hal, like in a really like paternal way. Mm-hmm. So I was like, maybe he knows that so I was like, maybe it's Abel, but then I was like, no, I bet it's his husband. And they said he was bisexual. So I was like, so he had a relationship with her first and then killed her because she was going to like out the fact that he had a kid, and then he wants to be with Abel because I was like, you know, they give you all these like directions that you're trying to go. But yeah, as soon as Ezra was like, oh no, Hal can stay, like let's let her keep the inheritance, because she like tried to give it up or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they were like, really? And then they were about to like do that, and then they decided no, that she should still keep it because that's the way it was written or whatever. And as soon as that happened, I was like, ooh, I bet it's him. And then I started to think more on it, and I was like, yeah, this is making more sense. And then obviously all the clues kind of come to fruition. But yeah, do you have any? I mean,
yeah, I mean, as soon as they started to like talk about like this is so and so and this is so and so, like the youngest son, the youngest one, immediately I was like, oh, it's got to be him, because he was so nice right away. And everyone else was being normal, but he was way too invested in her and way too interested and like solicitous and all the stuff. I just thought it was him immediately. I thought, oh, it's this guy.
Yeah.
So haven't read much further, but like that, yeah, I just thought it's him.
Yeah. Yeah, he was too relaxed, like as if it's like he was holding all the cards and he was just waiting to see how they were all play out to make sure that he had the best hand.
It sort of reminded me of Knives Out in a way.
Yes.
So
yes.
Not to give spoilers for that necessarily for anybody either. If you haven't watched Knives Out, you should. It's great fun. But yeah, like right away I was like, oh, he's just like Ransom, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a good movie. I like that movie. So if you were in Hal's position, would you have gone to the Westaway estate knowing the risks? Why or why not?
I don't know if I would. I'm a big scaredy cat. Like I said before, I would have liked to think that I would have, but being that desperate, maybe I would have been scared into action and actually would have done it. You know, I mean, yeah, I'm not sure. I would have wanted to. I would want to, but I don't know if I would actually do it.
I think the sole purpose of having that loan shark in the book was to have the fear factor piece, almost as if like she had no other choice, because that was another thing that I didn't like. I was like, this is stupid, like this whole like your only choice is to take over your mom's tarot card hut, and like I didn't, that to me was very unbelievable. And the fact that like she takes over the hut and like suddenly she can't afford all the things that she had prior. So how did her mom afford that? Was she that much better of a tarot card reader? And then to come find out she wasn't even the original tarot card reader. So how did she become so good if she wasn't even Maggie, you know? So that was a little frustrating how that was all set up. But for this particular question, the fact that there was that loan shark, that's like, I feel like was the only factor that was really pushing her to go, was the fact that if she'd stayed, she was dead, you know, like, but for me, like, if I was her, I would probably go because I'd be the one that would be like trying to make it right. Like, hey, so you found me, you wrote me this letter. Like, can we please discuss like how are you saying that it's me? Like, because a lot of the times, especially with the name, her name and all this, like, it's not like there's 50 Harriet Westaways out there. Like, it's not like you're a Jane Smith, you know? So I would have gone, you know, seen what it is, because she didn't know a lot about her mother. And the fact that she had no recollection or any information about her father, my first instinct would be like, I don't know anything about my dad. This could be, maybe this is what this is. Like, this could be wonderful. And yeah, I would have gone and been like, tell me more. I wouldn't have been, you know, as like, I feel like she went into it trying to be like a usurper. Like, she was trying to, like, make sure that she was not giving up the right information.
Yeah.
I would have just gone in completely truthful, like, hey, I don't think you have the right person. Can you tell me more? Like,
right.
How am I related to these people? And then maybe everything would have come fuller, you know, like, yeah. I feel like we're like in a suspended in disbelief when we read books, like, because it's fiction, we're just supposed to like go along. And this is one of the things that my husband hates about watching movies with me, because I'm like, nah, that would never happen. You can't, nah. And that's how I feel sometimes when I read books like this, because I'm like, nah, no.
I know.
You're not going to some place in the country and pretending to be somebody. Like, no.
I know. And like you said before too, for myself, at least in real life too, I don't have time to like be a permanent liar and like lie about what I'm doing and all this stuff. It is hard enough to remember what I did in the first place, let alone to have some kind of lie about it. So I would have absolutely been like, hi, Mr. Lawyer Man. Like, when you're in the car on the way to the church, especially, be like, hey, real quick, I know we don't have time now, but I have some concerns about this. Like, I don't know how you found me exactly. Like, do we have time to talk later? Just the two of us. Just to be straightforward and be like, yo, I don't know what's going on. But, like, this seems like something.
Clearly they found you.
Right. So there's a reason why.
There's a reason why.
Yeah.
Exactly. They believe you to be the daughter of this woman. That's what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So let's find out why it is believed that.
Mm-hmm.
And there you go. So, and especially, I don't know if you got to the part where she sees the picture.
She did see a picture. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was incredibly confusing to me, because the whole point, so Abel gives her the picture and says, I thought you might want to have this. And she like pales because she's like, oh my gosh, I see my mother.
Mm-hmm.
And then she asks, who is this? And she points to the one that she points to the one who is her mother, because he's going to tell her who this stranger is. Yeah. But if he pointed to her mother, then he would have said, that's Maud.
Right.
But instead he said, that's Maggie. So she pointed to the wrong person.
Mm-hmm.
Or vice versa. So that whole scene, I feel like, was poor writing, in the fact that, like, you can't be so specific to say she saw her mother and she pointed to her and Abel said that was Maggie. Because then later, when she looks at the picture again, she realizes, no, that is my mother and that is Maud. So it's like, okay, you can't have it both ways. Mm-hmm. Like, their appearances did not change. They like, it wasn't like it's just like, oh, when she was 3 and now she's an adult, so it's like she had blonde hair when she was a kid, but now she has brown hair when she's older. No, this was in a span of a couple of years. Like, you know what your mother looks like, and your mother is Maud, technically. So that was irksome to me when it all came out, that it was like her mother was Maud. I was like, okay, well, you can't have photographic evidence and then have someone clearly state who each person is in the picture and you still get it wrong.
Right.
So that was a little irksome to me. But switching gears here, were there any moments where you felt the tension or suspense was too much to handle? How did Ware create that sense of unease? I don't know where you are, if it really has gotten there yet.
Not so much. I mean, it's creepy and there's tension there. And because I read and watch so much Gothic stuff, like, I'm already hyped up and like getting myself more tense than the situation warrants. Like, that's how I am when I'm reading. I'm way too over expectant of what's going to happen. And it's like, really, all the bad stuff I think is going to happen, just like in real life, doesn't actually happen. And it's very mundane. Like, nothing really goes on. So I was getting really like, oh my gosh, I don't know. But really, no, nothing really tense has happened. Aside from the fact that, like, she was able to get there and that she was the inheritor, because that's what I thought she would be too. Like, she'd be the one to inherit everything, but like really not much. Though I don't know why on earth you would stay. I'm assuming she stays in that room at the very top of the house. Girl, I would not be anywhere I could be locked in with a barred window. Absolutely not. You have this entire other house. You're telling me that this is the only room that's possible for me to stay in that's not a family room? No, I do not buy that. And I would not stay.
Well, and I think that was totally Mrs. Warren, because she is, and it comes like Mrs. Warren knows exactly who she is. Sure. So she's very prejudiced against her. And so she did that purposefully. She put her in that room purposefully because that's where her mother was. And yes, so that definitely, I feel like, created a level of suspense, because I feel like it was a lot of foreshadowing of like the fact that not only was her mother somewhat of a prisoner, but she would be one at some point. Like, it just, I felt like it was going to be something like that. The foreboding that of seeing Help Me and like all these different things in that room. I don't think the room had any heat registers, so it was like super cold as well. But later in the book too, someone starts messing with her, and like she almost breaks her neck falling down the stairs. And like, but you're right. Why, after finding out that everything is yours,
you're still like, cool,
I'm not have a little bit of self-confidence and say, I would really like to be moved to a different room. And I'm sorry, are you telling me that a manor, an estate such as that, has one bathroom?
I know.
Like, I was so confused. I thought it meant like there was one bathroom like on that level. No, one bathroom for the entire manor. The entire estate had one bathroom.
Right, I know.
That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. I'm sorry, it doesn't. And the fact that that was written in really aggravates me, because there's no, it's not plausible. It's not plausible. I'm sorry, it's not. So that was a little aggravating to me too. Like, there's that's what I'm saying. Like, there's certain aspects of the book that I'm just like, this doesn't make sense. Like, you're creating suspense and you're creating tension on implausible things. So that was irritating to me. But I was just like, you just roll with it. You're just like, okay, whatever. You're using this as a tool. Let's move on. But having the Miss Danvers character as well, like Mrs. Warren, creeped me out the entire time. I was waiting for her to like psycho with a knife in the bathroom. Like, so her whole character was just suspenseful. And when you find out like the role that she played too, you're like, okay, you're creepy, and you maybe deserved what you got. But I think Can
I guess something? Can I guess something quick?
Oh, sure.
Does she get murdered by the son?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
He's the murderer of the murderer
of everybody. Yeah.
Of everyone. Everyone who has died.
Yeah. It's him. Yeah. Okay.
Everyone who has died.
I would hope that she would get her comeuppance, Mrs. Warren, you know, just based on who she is as a character. So I'm glad she didn't live. Maybe that's really mean-spirited, but I'm like, okay, good. I'm glad you ate it, you know?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. She was creepy. She was creepy. I didn't like how she would like whisper, like, get out, and all these like, she was creepy.
No, thank you.
Was creepy. Kind of speaking of creepy, what role do you think the estate itself plays in the story?
I think that is why it's like there's a built-in creep factor, just because of this isolation by the sea on the coast, dark and stormy, rainy all the time, not up to date, one bathroom. Yeah, right. Like crappy electricity. All this stuff is just built in. Like, So you can't be anything but freaked out when you're there, essentially. You know, and all the birds and everything too. I forgot about the birds outside.
The
like,
magpies, yeah.
Dude.
Yeah. It reminds me, like, so in the movie The Birds, where
I mean, I know
school
it,
teacher, you've not seen The Birds?
No.
Shut the front door.
I know. I'm missing so much Hitchcock. It's not funny.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I know. I know the plot of the movie, but yeah, I haven't seen it.
Okay, so we need to have a movie night. Oh my goodness.
That's fine. We can do that.
Okay, so this will be lost on you, but in the movie The Birds, there is a scene where the school teacher is leading the children out of the school, and there are just birds everywhere. Like every electrical line, they're just staring down these kids and this teacher, and they're like trying to walk very slowly. You know, Tippi Hedren's like, we gotta go, like, and they're just like walking really slowly. And the scene where like the film Hitchcock does it in such a way where the teacher's walking and you just see the birds, and that's all I kept imagining when they kept talking about these magpies. I'm just like, are these birds gonna like kill somebody? Like, every time I'm just like, why do you keep mentioning these birds? If someone gets like killed from these birds, like, I'm not gonna be able to read any more of this book. like that movie traumatized me as a kid. Like, I could not watch that movie, and I watched it like 6 times, all before the age of 20. Nice. Like, oh, that it's so good, but it's like, oh my goodness. Anywho, but yeah, and I won't tell you who all dies in that movie, but let's just say the birds win a lot.
Yeah.
So I was real worried the way they kept talking about the magpies, but I think I wasn't as much annoyed with the magpie piece as I was with the tarot card thing, because with the magpies there was the nursery rhyme that went along with it that really set the tone for the book, which I think was good. And setting a tone is different than having full on chapters about this tarot card stuff that literally does nothing to the story. So yeah, the magpies were interesting, and how she kind of had woven in that nursery rhyme to kind of help along with the diary entries and the secret and all that stuff. And I figured it had to have been one of the siblings for her to get pregnant, because that's why it was so bad, because it was one of Mrs. Westaway's kids, and she was just, you know, a cousin. So she was lowly compared to the Westaways, you know. So yeah, anywho. But yeah, being that the estate was, you know, secluded, and so run down, like just not a hearty place. And considering that the flashbacks are the 90s, and
that's weird.
Now is like considered now or whatever, you know, 2000 and whatever. But it felt like it was like the 60s and then, you know, the 80s, because it was so like, why do they have nothing?
Right.
So yeah, but it was good. I mean, yeah. I know we usually have a little bit of a longer show here, but I know you're not feeling well, so
I'm surprised I'm not coughing much. I'm glad.
Yeah, those were the questions that I had. But any additional topics? I mean, it's hard to talk too much about a thriller, because you really just have like the setup, the players, and who done it, right? Like, but like I said, I think overall I really enjoyed the fact that it felt very Agatha Christie. So you were trying to figure out like who in the circle was responsible. And then as it all kind of came to fruition, I think it rolled out pretty good. I mean, obviously there were things here and there that I was like, whatever, I don't really like this. But yeah. I did like, so I mean, it does have like a happy-ish ending. Like she does find family in the end, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Which is really what she was kind of, I feel like, kind of going after in the beginning. Like she had no one. So after everything was said and done, she now has people and quite a fortune.
Yeah.
Because technically, even though Maud was not her mother, Ezra was her father. So even after it was all said and done, her inheritance would still apply because she is actually the sibling, the offspring of one of the children. So technically, it all applies anyways.
Yep.
And in a will, it doesn't, just because, so you are named in a will, right? It doesn't matter if you're not actually, if you're named in a will, you're named in a will. It doesn't matter.
Right.
So she was named in the will. She could have been Mrs. Warren. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that she wasn't technically the offspring of, it doesn't matter. She was named in the will.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing that stands up in court is the will.
Yeah. So
I don't have anything else to add, obviously, because I suck. But I did want to say, like, I'd like to read her other stuff and catch up a little bit more. But I just saw in some like upcoming books this year that Ruth Ware, her book this year, she's writing essentially a sequel to The Woman in Cabin 10. And it's going to be called The Woman in Suite 11. And I have not read The Woman in Cabin 10 yet. I own it, but I haven't read it yet. And my assumption is that like all of her books are standalones and they're all like mystery thrillers intent to be standalones. So I'm wondering if you have read that book or if Andy is still here, if she has, and if she thinks that making a sequel makes sense. Because that seemed like I read that, I saw that, and I was like, wait, what? How is this a thing? I think that I don't know.
Well, I assume that there's a character in there that is going to be the recurring. Right. Or sometimes it's just off of the same thought process. Or maybe the killer got away in The Woman in Cabin 10.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. But also was her second book, I think. And that was not even 10 years ago, probably, but maybe 8 years ago it was written. I think it's funny that she says so many other books in between, and that if she was going to write a sequel to one of her books, that it wasn't closer to that original pub date, and that it's this far out. That also seems strange to me as well, you know, like a weird amount of time. Like either it's too close or too far. It just seems like, why are you doing this now? But again, I don't know anything about it. I just know that it's going to exist or exists, you know. I just thought that was interesting / weird / funny. But do you have any of her other books on your shelves?
Just The Woman in Cabin 10.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. That one I feel like I see out in the thrift store all the time.
Mm-hmm. It was so popular, I know.
Yes. What was the other one that was super popular? Or is that the one I'm thinking of? Like, it was all over BookTube. Like, people were nonstop talking about it. I feel like maybe it was The Woman in Cabin 10.
I think that was it. And then after, like, these first three of hers, I think isn't this her third one? Mrs. Westaway. Then I start to get the titles of Ruth Ware and Riley Sager books confused. And I don't know why. Like, the two of them in my head they're not the same at all, but they're just sort of related in my brain. Mm-hmm. I don't know what that is. So
I think because they had books coming out at the same time that were very similar in not theme, but just like thriller books, and like people were talking about them crazy, like constantly. Because I thought they were the same too. Because I don't really read a lot of thrillers. Mm-hmm. Annie said, "I like The Woman in Cabin 10, but no idea where she will go with a sequel."
Interesting. Okay.
You gave it 2 stars. I hear that. I feel like people were really into it, but did not rate it very well. Yeah, I could take it or leave it. I'm not a big like thriller or like the mystery stuff I do is usually cozy mystery.
Yeah.
Just because I don't. Sometimes I will read a thriller and it's just too much for me. Like I will never get the scenes from. Is it Gillian or Gillian Flynn?
I think it's Gillian.
Okay. They're not Sharp Objects or Gone Girl. It's the other one. Dark Places or something.
Yeah.
I will never get the images of some of the stuff that happened in that book out of my head. Like the places authors' minds must go to have certain things in their books. I just don't read thrillers. The other one that I couldn't even finish, I had a DNF because it was literally making me sick to my stomach, was that Vampire Southern Charm.
Oh yeah.
I was like, what am I reading?
You were also pregnant at the time too, which might have helped that. I remember that because I was like, I think some of this is pregnancy. I know it's gross, but like I think it
was so bad. I was like, I can't read this. So I'm not a big thriller person. If I read mystery, it's a cozy mystery.
Yeah.
Just because I don't like gore. I don't like super suspenseful things. I'm okay with thrillers as long as they're not gory. And not that this was gory by any means, but it's just not something I gravitate towards.
Yeah.
If I were to pick something up, I would say I would feel safe with her because I haven't really read anything gory from her writing. But take it or leave it.
Yeah, I know. Like Andy said, I think I'm done with Ruth Ware. I'll read Woman in Cabin 10 because I own it and I am curious to see what I think. I think I'll probably read it similarly to Andy just because I read and watch a lot of mystery and I have my entire adult life. So that's, 20 some years of reading a lot of similar tropes and stuff. So I think I will be not as surprised by any kind of reveals or any kind of jumps or anything. I do think I might feel sick because I get I'm so sensitive to like waves and stuff, and like I get so sick so easy. If I turn around too fast, I get nauseated. Like I think that I might get sick that way. And being on a boat and everything, but I'm okay with not reading her. And if I ever did, it would be fine, but whatever. And like you too, I don't read a lot of thrillers. I have some from Book of the Month because I thought, well, I should try these more. And I want to be a thriller kind of person, but I'm not. I am a mystery series person, not necessarily cozy, but just like a straight mystery or police procedural or like detective mystery. Like those are my books. I love those books. TV shows, but books too. So the fact that these are all standalones, it does not work in my favor, like in her favor for me. And I just enjoy stuff with like a PI or someone who like Ellie Griffiths writes a couple of series, but I think her biggest series is the Ruth. Oh my God, what's Ruth's last name? She is an anthropologist, and she ends up working with the police a lot and like helping them with investigations. And she keeps finding like bodies and stuff, even though that is her job is partially to work with skulls and exhuming things. But like I really like her and all of those, and so I will just keep reading those and kind of ignore thrillers as they kind of come and go. Yeah, I've heard that too, Andy, from a lot of people who read a lot of thrillers, that lately it's been really disappointing. Like the last couple of years, people that read them are just not into thrillers. So the new ones that are coming out, I should say.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll stick with my long-term mysteries, and I'll read the one I have because I have it, but I can't imagine I'll be like, ooh, I can't wait to read the next new Ruth Ware. No offense to Ruth Ware. I wish her nothing but success in life, but
right. Yeah.
It's not my thing, generally speaking.
Yeah. And I think too, when you have thrillers, like when we read what was it, The Guest List. Yeah. It's kind of like every time something happened, you're like, really? Like we're gonna have it be this now? Like, okay. I guess.
Yeah. And speaking of Lucy Foley too, I'm going to be listening to The Hunting Party very soon.
I heard that one's good.
Yeah, and I started listening to the audiobook a while ago when it first came out because it was like the new thriller. That was her first book. It's her new author, you know, and the audiobook is full cast. I'm like, this should be really great. So I started listening and I got a good chunk into it, but then I suddenly realized I had no idea who was talking at any one point in the story. Like all the accents kind of blended and I didn't know who was who anymore. So I have to restart again and be like, okay, who was talking now and who is this person? And like make a note, you know, so I don't forget. But
that's one thing that really kind of stinks about audiobooks. When you have an audiobook that is based on a book that has split POVs, the POVs are not split by chapters, they're just like split by paragraph, and the reader doesn't, like the narrator doesn't really change their reflection of their voice that much.
Yeah.
It really does get disorienting because you're like, wait, is someone else talking right now? Because you're just like droning on, assuming it's the same person the whole time. And then you realize because of the way they're saying things, you're like, oh, wait, I don't think. And then, yeah, it's very disorienting. So I can see how that would be. Yeah, and it's harder to refer back with an audiobook. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just read Onyx Storm, which is Rebecca Yaros's latest release, which is the third book in this Empyrean series. And so many times I was just like, and not because of like the difference, because it's really only Violet's perspective, but so many times, like, because of the writing, which I feel is not as good as everyone likes to say it is, I was like, wait, what? And because you don't have a physical book in front of you, or at least I don't, I'm like, I can't go. I'm not going to keep going back on my time, because I would like go back 15 seconds or go back 30 seconds, and I'm like, what did they just say? So in that respect, it kind of stinks when you're reading books like that, where the details matter, where you're like, wait a minute, did she just say what I think she just said? Or wait a minute, and so it is frustrating, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, good. I've not heard of that one. But yeah, I mean, I do a lot of audiobook reading just because it's what I can do. So it does take a lot of my energy to focus on who's speaking. And I've gotten better over time, but I also like to listen at like 2.15, which if there's action, the narrator will instinctively speak faster. So then it turns into a crazy mode, and I'm just like, wait, what's happening? Oh, someone's getting killed.
Yeah.
So, yeah. My husband also likes to talk to me while I have my headphones on.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, and then he keeps talking, and I'm like, okay, wait, I gotta turn this off, because literally someone's getting killed right now, and it's all happening so fast that you need to shut up. There are dragons flying everywhere.
Yeah, I know. For a lot of my audiobooks that I used to do when I was a big audiobook listener, when I had like a commute and things, and had a boring desk job too, I would do a lot of mysteries where it was mostly just one person narrating, you know, or a lot of like biographies or fictionalized biographies. So it doesn't matter who was speaking, because it's just the narrator is just telling you what's happening. So it's perfectly fine to just listen and kind of check out and whatever else. But now with reading different genres, and especially with a full audio cast, I want to make sure I really know who is speaking, because like I start a book out at regular speed until I get used to the accents or whoever is talking, or the narrator if it's one person, and then I usually go to between like 2 and 3 speeds, somewhere in there. Once I'm used to what's happening and know what's going on, like it's fine. But same thing too, like something happens, whatever, it's like, oh, wait, what? What? Where's my phone? I gotta hit pause. Hold on a second. Like, what's happening? It's really disorienting. And I checked out the Hunting Party book from the library, and I can't renew it. I've had this out for 9 weeks now. To keep me in to go back to like start that audiobook again. I really do want to give it another shot and like get that off my list, because I'm trying to go back to all of my Audible titles, which is a stupid amount of Audible titles that I started. I mean, unread is ridiculous, but like the ones I have started and just like drifted away and forgotten about, much like books in my life, I just sort of stop listening after a while and go, okay, I'll come back, and I never come back. And there's no reason for it. So I'm trying to like recorrect that stuff, or catch up on things, close some circles, close some rings, and yeah.
Well, speaking of circles to close, let's put a cap on this discussion. Okay. And for those of us who finished, I feel like it was decent. We all kind of rated it in the 3 to 4 range, so not terrible. You are going to finish it later, so you'll have to tell me all about how you felt, how everything came to fruition as you read, even though you kind of know, but there's a lot to be said there.
Yeah.
The way Hal figures it out, because she does really decide to investigate. I mean, which is dangerous, but
right.
I guess if you have nothing to lose and you nothing to go back to, what else are you going to do? So, but yeah. So for next month, February, again, our reading sprints will be next week, which is Tuesday the 4th. So February 4th, we're already into February. At 8 p.m. we'll do some reading sprints. You can read whatever you like, but most of us will start the February read, which is the beginning of spring. And that's by Penelope Fitzgerald. If you have a Hoopla account, at least on mine, it does have an ebook copy available there. So that's what I'll be reading.
Yeah. And I got mine from the library. There was only one copy, but there was a copy. So, hey.
Yeah. Great exciting.
Yeah. And sorry, everyone, for the coughing and general sound of my voice this time. It's been a long couple of weeks.
It's all good. It's all good. Okay. Well, I think we'll call it a night there. We're just under an hour, so that was a nice, quick discussion. And we will see you all next week for our reading sprints. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. If you are watching this in replay, please feel free to make any of your comments below. We always look back at those. And if you are wanting to join our Voxer group, just message us and we will pop you into the feed. So, okay, I think we'll end it there.
All right, thanks,
Have
everyone.
a good night, everyone.
Thanks, Andy.
Bye.